if you think you've seen peak weird Nick Cage lead performance, you're going to have to think again, because in The Surfer, he's not just unhinged, right? He rides the line between beach bro and psychedelic horror hobo, and he drops in and out of them perfectly. This is Ozploitation on acid, and I'm very excited we get to deep dive, see what I did there, into it this week. Don't leave, I promise. That'll be the last surf pun. I promise. Now, I consider myself a Nick Cageologist, right? I love Nick Cage. I've seen like The Wicker Man, Mandy, Face Off, Con Air, even the one where he screams about a truffle pig for 2 hours, right? Like, I love Nick Cage. But The Surfer, directed by Lorcan Finnegan, might be the most cagiest I've ever seen him. Like, this film is, it's surreal, it's savage, it's fucking sunburnt. Like, everyone in this film is red raw. I watched this movie at 9:30 at night, and it made me want to go outside and put on SPF 50. Like, everyone's going to get melanoma. And it dances perfectly between horror and absurdist comedy. There is a lot of Cage face in this one. You know the look I'm talking about that he does, where it's like his teeth are doing a lot of the acting. Yeah, this one. There's a lot of that in this, like, and it's often zoomed in, and it's often accompanied by like this weird reflective wind chime sound effect. And that sounds silly because it kind of is. Like, this is kind of silly, but it works so bloody well in this film because of the origins of the Ozploitation genre and how weird it gets. It just works so well for this film. This movie is weird moments of abject awfulness, right? Punctuated by weird moments of absurd comedy. And I just really liked it. This is definitely a Vegemite film, but I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. In The Surfer, Cage plays a man known only as The Surfer, surprise, and he's back in Australia after living in America. He had a divorce, and he's trying to connect with his son by buying, frankly, a ridiculous multi-million-dollar property in Luna Bay. Like, it's on the cliffs and it overlooks this beach. And Luna Bay is a chill coastal town where Cage's character grew up. The problem is Luna Bay has a pack of local surfers called the Bay Boys, who enforce some pretty fucking gnarly surf tribalism. And their motto is basically, if you don't live here, you don't surf here, right? Like, that's their whole thing. And naturally, Cage's character goes full Cage. He refuses to back down. He ends up igniting basically this escalating war with the gang's leader, Scally, who's played by Julian McMahon, who is given, like, he's fucking great in this, and he's giving full, like, Daniel Plainview energy, but in those weird, like, hoodie towel combos. Like, he wears that the entire film. It's very strange. It's a very strange pick, but it's really good. This movie, if you don't know, like, if you're outside Australia, you might not know this, but surf tribalism in Australia is a thing, right? There is a lot of violence that happens because of it. My dad was a surfer his entire life. He grew up on the Gold Coast. He pretty much surfed every day of his life until recently, and he's almost 70. And he used to tell me so many stories about getting into fistfights with locals, like big ones, full on, people being severely injured, sometimes dying, because, you know, some out-of-towner or tourist would come and try to drop in on a wave, and the locals of that beach who surfed it every day took offense to it. If you want to know more about that and you want to go on a deep dive, there is a documentary called The Bra Boys. It's all about this. Even watch if you just watch the trailer, if you've seen The Surfer and you just watch the trailer, you'll see characters that have basically been pulled straight out of Bra Boys, right? Like, the full on, they have surf gangs, they smack on, they bottle each other, full on. It's a full on thing. And this movie exploits that and explores it really well. This movie is pure grade A Ozploitation film, right? Like, you've got sunburnt mysticism, there's a lot of like handheld camera chaos, there's zoomed in shots of unhinged locals laughing manically, there's these weird cutaways to various Australian native animals like mid-violence. It feels a bit like Midsommar met Point Break, and then they went and got pissed on Great Northern beers on the beach together. It's like the first little bit of Wolf Creek where the campers actually meet John Jarrett's character mixed with Long Weekend. There's a little bit of like Mad Max style car focus for a bit. Like you can tell that the cars are somewhat of a focus in this movie. But it is more absurd, it is more Aussie, and it's definitely more Nick Cagey than all of those. Here's a fun fact. I had to Google whether Lorcan Finnegan, the guy who made this, was Australian. He's not. He's Irish. But he nails the chaotic Aussie energy that is needed for this film, right? Like this man has done his homework. He's watched all the Ozploitation classics. He also did Vivarium with Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots, I believe. So if you like the weirdness of that, this is very much in the same vein. This movie explores surf localism, toxic masculinity, and that weird, hyper-aggressive Aussie mate culture that sort of springs up around those communities. I mean, Cage, he's fucking perfect in this. He's got two modes: sad, divorced, miserable dad, and shit upon surf hobo. And he plays them both beautifully. It's a bit Blue Ruin-y. If you've seen that, it's a fucking fantastic movie. Same guy that did The Green Room, but I got Blue Ruin vibes from this movie. Also, the acts of violence that they chose to show in this, or that Thomas Martin, the writer, chose to do in this, is really clever because they're not loud enough to sort of need police intervention, but they are just enough to make you feel unsafe. And at the start, they're pretty benign, like just someone bumps his shoulder or whatever. But they ramp up. It's like Paranormal Activity with bogans, really. The visuals in this movie are stunning. Radek Ladsuk, who also did The Babadook and The Nightingale, like he did the cinematography for this one. It's this orange tinted, sunburnt fever dream feel. Like there's a bit of warping. There is a scene in this that looks like it was shot underwater. Like the character's view is like it's behind, like through a waterfall almost. It feels like a bit of a retro horror love letter to surf films. Francois Titas did the soundtrack. I'm sorry, I probably pronounced that wrong, but he absolutely nailed it. He did the soundtrack for both Wolf Creek and Rogue, and the soundtrack and the sound cues for this movie are hilarious, and they're really unsettling. Like it does this reflective wind chime thing, right? Like that you'd expect from like early 2000s movies when a character's reminiscing, or like soap opera almost. And then it cuts to like Nick Cage being mauled by a fucking dog, and that juxtaposition of tone is weirdly like it works. It's funny. Like in my cinema, that would happen and we'd all be laughing. But like Nick Cage getting fucking mauled by a dog. Like it's really odd. Maybe our cinema was just fucking sickos. I don't know, but this movie has weird bouts of funniness to it, even though something awful is happening. And that just really sums up the genre. I think Lorcan Finnegan really nailed it with this one. The only issue I really had with this movie is that it's a little bit long. I should say it's not a little bit long. It feels a bit long, right? This movie's only like 100 minutes, which is for me usually like the perfect amount of runtime. But there's a few torment scenes that drag on without upping the stakes, and that made it sort of feel like it was over a 2-hour film. Now, this movie has a lot going on. It's not like there's large scenes of nothing happening, but I feel like they could have trimmed 10 to 15 minutes out of those like torment scenes and given us more scenes between Scally and the surfer, and that would have made this an instant cult classic, because there is a scene in this film between Scally and the surfer with a hamburger in a car park that was like my favorite part of the entire film. And like I said, it's very Daniel Plainview, And I fucking loved it. And I think if they'd done more of those scenes and we got a bit more backstory about the two of them, and more options where Julian McMahon gets to be a bit of a menace, this movie would have been fucking perfect. And the tone of this movie is going to weird some people out, especially if you haven't seen any Ozploitation films before. You'll probably find the tone jumps very odd. But if you don't mind Cage at his cagiest, I thought this movie was a wonderful fever dream of a thriller with absolutely stellar ending. Like, it has an absolutely stellar ending that I did not see fucking coming. I thought it was going one way and then it like juked me and went the other way, and it was just awesome. I really liked the ending. It's one of the strongest things about this film. You should watch this if you love weird Aussie horror. I'm talking Killing Ground or Long Weekend, right? This is in the vein of those. If you love it when Cage goes full Cage, Mandy, Dream Scenario, that style of Cage performance, that is what this does. If you like chamber pieces in strange places, this whole movie basically takes place in a beach car park, and it's kind of amazing the gross shit you can get up to in a beach car park. I hadn't thought about it before, but this movie does it opened my eyes to that sort of shit. It's really, really well done. I would avoid this if you hate surreal psychological horror. You know, there are intense pieces of psychedelia in this film. If you don't like that shit, stay away. It doesn't feel grounded, this movie. If you want clear-cut villains or jump scares, there's none of that in here. If you aren't ready for the most Australian film that's ever been done by a non-Australian, stay away from this one, because I don't know how Lorcan Finnegan did it. He fucking nailed this. So for my recommendations, I'm going to keep up that theme of Ozploitation. I'm going to pick one that's a bit older and one that's a sort of a new version of this. So my first recommendation is, it came out last year. It's the modern Ozploitation film Bird Eater. It's the directorial debut by Jack Clark and Jim Weir. I loved it. It's all about coercive relationships and the fucked up toxic behavior that sort of happens around bucks parties. It follows an engaged couple called Irene, who I think she's English, and Louis, who's Aussie, and they're engaged, and they've decided to head to like a remote property for Louis' bucks party. Louis sort of decided that he's going to try change it up a bit, go away from the tradition of bucks parties, and told everyone to basically invite their partners. So there are women and men there, and pretty quickly you work out that Louis and his mates are fucking grubs, frankly. And after some drinks, drugs, and the most awkward dinner scene of all time, things get pretty fucking dangerous, right? Like, this is a wonderful example of modern Ozploitation. There's a rural setting, there's fucked up behavior of the crew, there's an exploration of weird phenomena that is bucks parties. You know, bucks parties are pretty weird when you think about them, and the behavior that goes on, you're like, that's fucking odd that you can just go act like an animal for a night. You know, it's fucking weird. But it all melds together wonderfully in this weird, awkward social horror. And when you work out what's going on with Irene and Louis, it's a pretty bloody miserable film, to be fair. But like a car crash, you know, my eyes were glued to it the entire time. For my second recommendation, I'm picking the 1971 classic Wake in Fright. This recently had a 4K remaster by Umbrella. It's a fantastic cult horror. It's so fucking weird, but if you're okay with like older films, check out Wake in Fright. It follows the handsome young Donald Pleasance as a school teacher named John, who is on his way to a remote placement, but he gets stuck in this remote mining town called the Yabba. From there he gets into all sort of beer-fueled shenanigans with the locals, including like bush bashing, fucking illegal games of 2-Up, which is a gambling game in Australia, if you don't know. He fist fights kangaroos. Like, it's vandalism. He does some vandalism. It's all very crazy. This movie is so fucking weird. It's also a really scary look at Australian drinking culture, especially rural drinking culture, right? Like, where cops are scarce and booze is plentiful. Which happens a lot in Australia because of its geography, right? Australian geography is so weird. You can drive an hour out of Brisbane and have your own Wake in Fright fucking weekend, right? Like, that's how strange the landscape of Australia is. But what I like about this is this movie, there's not many flat out bad guys in it. It's the local customs and behaviors that are strange. And because John comes from a different place, he decides to jump in with both feet and really embrace it. And then when he sort of realizes that he's not having fun anymore, and he tries to take like the moral high ground with the locals, that's when they start to get prickly and it starts to get really dangerous. It's super interesting. It's super funny in bits. And if you want a prime example of Ozploitation, this is it. Like, this is the Ozploitation film. Justin Kurzel said in an interview with Mark Maron recently, if you don't know who Justin Kurzel is, he did Snowtown and Nitram and The Order recently. He said, people don't realise in most places in Australia, you are 1 or 2 beers away from being in danger. And when he said that, he's not referring to the Australian animals. He's referring to the people, right? The dangers of the people and basically drunk people in Australia. And Wake in Fright perfectly encapsulates that. So that's it. Let me know. Have you seen The Surfer yet? Let me know in the comments if you thought it was brilliant or bonkers or just plain fucking baffling. It's a classic Nick Cage fare. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea. He's certainly mine. I really want to know specifically, if you're not Aussie and you've seen this film, what did you think of it? Because I think it would hit completely differently if you're not from Oz. Also, what's your favorite Nick Cage horror film? Mine's Mandy. The scene where he's like pissed on vodka, just screaming in the bathroom mirror. It lives rent free in my head. I think about it every time I brush my teeth. But that's it. Hopefully I'll see you next week for another review. Peace.